Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Hingham's Selectmen's meeting for Thursday, December 12th. Our agenda this evening is to approve some minutes, but principally, and our main focus will be to go through, as we started last week, a series of budget hearings. Tonight will be on the bathing beach, the recreation department, veterans, town clerk, treasurer, collector, community planning, the library, and the police department, animal control, and harbor master. So with that, I'll open up a motion on the minutes for November 7th.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of November 7th, 2013 as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
November 21st.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of November 21, 2013 as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's a good start. Okay. Let me just, I apologize for not being able to be here last week for a family issue. The process that we employ, as you know, for those at home, is the town administrator discusses with each of the departments their recommendations, and then he modifies them as he sees fit, and then we go to a hearing with us tonight. And this is done over a 3-week period, last week, this week, and next week. And then it is my intent, with the concurrence of my colleagues, that January 2nd, we would reconvene to make any modifications based on what we've heard, so that we can pass it along to our friends at advisory and give them sufficient time to do what they need to do. There's a couple of issues that may take a little longer than that, and I will, one of them, it will be tonight in the police arena, and I'll discuss that with you when it's appropriate. So with that, we have the bathing beach. Oh, welcome.
The bathing beach, are you going to do the back numbers of the budget? What number it is?
It's on page 137.
137. The summary is on page 12. They made my life very difficult today, submitting a budget with $341 less than last year, which I see no issue as to approve.
Well, I want to thank you for having us go first.
You're welcome. The coveted first spot.
You know, you can change positions. We.
And I mentioned to Joni, it's kind of interesting on a night like tonight that we're talking about the bathing beach, but.
That's okay, thank you. Maybe, Alan, you could introduce yourselves for the folks at home, since.
Sure. I'm Alan Peralta, one of the trustees of the bathing beach, and
Joan Williams.
who's the chairperson of the bathing beach trustees.
And I didn't see all of you people down at the bathing beach on Sunday watching the swim and dive team, their first annual dunk.
You're right.
That's right.
I rescheduled the board for the July one.
That's right. A good move.
Actually, I didn't know what was going on.
I only knew because I was the grandmother.
I'm sure Alan went in, too,
Oh, yeah,
right?
you
I
bet.
watched it.
Okay.
I don't go in the summer. Anywhere. I'm not a swimmer.
I was in church praying for them all. That's it.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I go all the time. I'm
Lengthy
very
service,
religious. I'm very religious. Okay. Who will lead the discussion? Alan?
Basically, our request, Joni, is the same as it was last year, correct?
Yeah, they haven't made any
No, it's the same, exact
additional
same.
requests.
And
Minus $34 or
And
something.
as you know, it's primarily for the activities during the summertime, you know, for the guards and the services we provide.
Yeah, and the reduction is just based on the days and how the summer falls, so.
Yeah.
If I may, any comments? I know there's work going on the beach. Is there there's an opportunity to educate folks? No?
Sure. When we're talking the Armstrong thing we're going for?
Yeah.
Yeah. We submitted an application to CPC. As some of you are aware, there was funding from town meeting to do some, like an engineering management plan for the beach. In fact, it's a prerequisite for us to get any money for our boat ramp. If we don't have a plan, we can't apply to the state fisheries to get a boat ramp, so it's kind of like a catch-22. Plus the fact, with erosion, everyone knows how severe last winter was and how difficult it was on the beach. The timing of having the money the year before was very helpful, because if there was ever a time to look at it, it was this past fall into the winter. And so we essentially hired the same firms that are doing both Whitney Wharf bridges, also doing the work for looking at the small revetment stone that's in front of the bathhouse. There is an armor stone wall that comes in from Otis Street, and it switches to smaller stone, and the smaller stone, quite honestly, hasn't worked. The big storms, it's kind of eroded, there's a filter fabric behind it, that's sitting down at the base of the, in a real nutshell, what they came up with, the engineers, was the extension of, I think, about 130, 140 feet of armor stone, the larger stone that is staying in place and has worked. And then the plan to save the parking lot, which was kind of imperiled last winter, is actually to sacrifice about 15 feet of it, which will actually have a larger resource area. But in doing so, our plan is to put very large blocks, not the things type you get at Home Depot, the things that are holding up large retaining walls, at that new edge, and putting the sand to that. You know, so that, heaven forbid, we have a real serious storm, we're not sacrificing the lot. And we could replenish the sand if need be. That's the more expensive of the two. That's about a $600,000 item. It's going to cost about $90,000 to $100,000 to extend the armor stone. So when we went to CPC, as most of you can appreciate because you've served time and have been before them, they said that us going for $700,000 was rather ambitious, shall we say. So we've agreed that since the armor stone is the priority, as you all know, we have an RFP out for the bathhouse, and if we don't do something like that soon, you know, the bathhouse is in peril.
The bathhouse is gone.
Is gone, you know, because as it is, the trustees have moved the fence and the flagpole over past storms. So we agreed to say, well, that's our priority. And we talked with Mr. Healy, who was at our last meeting. I know it's ambitious, but I think we're going to propose an article for the other money for town meeting. And maybe we can get it in 2 chunks or something. It's going to be ambitious, but it's about $600,000 to really stabilize and save the parking lot. There's a possibility we could get money from the Seaport Bond Council or DCR. My concern is if that takes 2 or 3 years, the parking lot may not be there. And as John Thomas, who's kind of my conscience for how well other communities do, Marshfield and Situate have done quite a bit at town meeting. They've been successful in getting some funding, but they've been fairly aggressive in dealing with their waterfront, you know, and it's been kind of brought up to us, well, maybe we should be too. And, you know, overall, town meeting's been pretty receptive to these things, and I know it's not an insignificant amount of money, but I think it's an important asset between the beach, the farmer's market, all the things that go on there. I think would be at a loss if we really had something dangerous happen there. We really lost more than what we've lost in the last couple of years.
Okay,
So.
good. Well, thank you for that. You'll be back on that issue.
Correct.
I know.
I just wanted to brief you on it.
No, and the CPC meetings aren't, and I wanted the public to be aware of this very important matter.
Correct.
Okay, any questions from my colleagues? Irma?
Are you going to do snow fencing again this year?
I don't believe so. No, it wasn't very successful, to say the least. By the way, the fencing in Whitney looks very good.
Oh, is the new fencing in?
A lot of it's up, right? Yeah.
Just about.
I went by today. It looks nice.
Go down there.
But
Good
the snow
job.
fence didn't work.
No.
No, that we know, Paul?
No, I'm all set, thanks.
Okay, well, thank you.
Can I say something? My name is John Hersey, and the bathing beach is open to the public, and I think we're being restricted as of right now. Maybe you people haven't even gone down there at night, but we're selling trees down there.
They've sold trees for a number of
I
years.
understand that, but we shouldn't be restricted when we drive in, because when they park, as soon as you enter that lot there, they're parked right there. Okay, I've gone there two times at night now, since they've opened up, and I had to go to the guard shack where the shack there, and drive in that way to get around it. Okay. So I think lighting is a problem there. When people drive in, those cars don't have their parking lights on. you're just driving into a dark parking lot. I think we can have an accident there in a park.
Don't they have lights around the
It doesn't
trees?
shine, it doesn't shine on the parking lot where the cars are parked for the customers.
Oh, I
I
see.
think you should go down there and take a look at the issue. I think we have an issue there, and they're not policing themselves. So when people park, they should have somebody say, "Get a park over here, out of the way, you can't park there." People can drive in, we should have a right to go in there, we drive right in and come right out again.
Okay.
Done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, okay? Okay. You'll take that as a to-do, if you will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right, good.
Happy holiday.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Recreation.
Page 133.
Page 133.
And the summary is on page 12 again. The recreation budget is also pretty straightforward. It just contains the director's salary and the appropriate step increases listed in your book at $84,337. Not much to adjust or discuss.
If you could introduce yourselves to the folks at home, and appreciate
I'm Tom Dallier, Recreation Commission.
Mark Thorell, Director of Recreation.
Okay. Any comments on the numbers or other matters you want to bring to the public's attention?
No, as Ted said, the operational budget is just one line item, director's salary, so not too much fiscal management there. Really, most of the fiscal operations happens within our revolving fund account. Just to point out a couple positives from last fiscal year, our road race, we had a great year. Changed up our strategy a little bit with revenue on the revenue side with sponsorships. So we saw an increase in revenue, so terrific road race. And then also for the first year we offered a couple of, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, a couple of fitness classes down at the harbor, both Zumba once a week and yoga once a week, and both were well attended and fantastic down there. So that was a great new addition to our summer program offerings. Couple improvements that we're hoping to approve this coming year is bolstering our school year long children's programs. We're starting to get into a little bit of martial arts, art programs, and dance, and hoping to add 3 or 4 in each one of those categories for this coming year. And projects that we were able to get some funding for with the help of CPC was the resurfacing of the basketball court out behind Town Hall, as well as the inline hockey rink. We received a funding for the East Street Skate House to find out what our options are with salvaging that building, and also funding for a new playground at Bradley Woods. So kind of just summed up, couple positive, couple things that we're hoping to improve on, and then a couple projects that we have for the future.
Okay, good.
Good.
Paul?
I just want to say that my 2.5-year-old grandson takes the karate class that's offered, and I hear a lot of hiya, ha. But, beyond that, who knows?
I saw him get you Saturday.
Yeah, he's good, he's good.
He's good.
I raised a question with the highway guys about the mulch under the slides and the swings at the park. That's something you guys are in charge of or take care of, or?
Yeah, it's under, that playground's definitely under our control, and it could use some help, the surfacing for the Cronin Field playground, so that's something that.
Do that in the spring?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
One of the things I had
Like it
mentioned
needs
to Selectman Healy at the last meeting was that the insurance company that we use, Property and Casualty, has offered us a consultant to come out and walk us through the playgrounds and tell us where our exposure points are, and so I'm trying to set that up for you for the spring.
Excellent.
no point in doing it right now.
Irma?
Picking up on Paul's point about the mulch, at some point, I'd like to see the town, because the town owns the field, begin to put a little bit of money into the recreation budget for the maintenance of the fields where we own them. And I know the rec does raise the money to do the fertilizing, aeration, and the DPW now does the mowing. But I think we need to step up and recognize for things like the mulch, or the landing pads, as the rest of us call them, so that we can recognize the ownership aspect to this. Maybe not this year, but
Well, we did include 10,000 in the DPW budget, which was going to be for water, but there'll be some surplus from that they can use for small things.
Okay, good point. And I know there's some, just to pre-announce that there's some work being done on some of the fields, and whether or not we should, long-term, to Irma's point, put some turf fields in some locations where we're being resurrected. But that's in the future, not for this year's budget. Okay, any comments from the public? Very good. You can go home and wrap.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank
Or
you.
shop.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. All right.
Next budget is your veterans. Also,
Do I have to pipe him on? He always pipes me into his office, so.
they deal with celebrations in J.R. Hall. The veterans
It's
budget,
on page 110.
110. The summary is on page 12 again. I'll just give you an overview on the Veterans Services budget. There were no additional requests, but you can see a rather steep increase, again, under the level services mandate. This budget is going to increase by approximately 24%, with the significant increase, all of the increase essentially coming in benefits. And Keith has done a fairly detailed analysis of where he sees the benefits increasing, and I'll let you also talk to you about the successes they've had in reducing these benefit costs, even though they're accelerating.
Mr. Chairman, Board, Keith German, Director of Veteran Services. As Ted mentioned, there are some things that are controlled by our budget, by our management, and some things that are not. As you can see, salaries for fiscal year 15, those are normal step increases. Our Cohasset support, which began effective November 1st, 2012, and continues, is tracked and reported on a weekly timesheet and is paid through the normal Hingham payroll system, but with quarterly reimbursements from the town of Cohasset. Those costs are reflected in the budget on the worksheet, salary line items that have a 01 prefix, if you see those. Those are sub-account codes. The expenses, 2.4% increase to reflect normal price escalations on items, regular items, paper, pens, ink, cartridges, all those things that we do have control over that we can manage properly. Cohasset-related travel and office expenses, again, reimbursed quarterly through that town into our system. Again, the major item, as a town administrator mentioned, is the benefits. These are not controlled. This is our best educated guess, looking at trends, looking at healthcare costs in the industry. All of the costs of the benefits are administered under Mass General Law, Chapter 115. So again, it's our best educated guess on what we can do to reduce any costs that we see or any trends. So what we've done in the positive is we've budgeted for a net increase of 2 clients for 6 months of ordinary allowances. A few existing clients will receive increased benefits, but normal client additions and attritions will apply. Currently, we have 34 veterans and widows being served in the town, and we work well with the Commander Anderson House, which is my next item. The next 2 items that I'm going to mention are we've worked diligently to reduce costs here. We've budgeted for 2 Commander Anderson clients who are eligible for our benefit for 12 months of transitional allowances. This budget is supported by the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services directive. This is a new directive designed to reduce homelessness through Secretary Nee's efforts and working closely with the Department of VA on a federal level which states that towns will now be reimbursed at a rate of 100%. So our normal reimbursement package for a normal client base, which I said was 34, is a 75%, 25% to the town split. So we saw a savings in that line item for the two of the eligible housing residents at the Commander Anderson House. I think one of the biggest things we did that really needs some attention is we increased our medical support by 5%. As we did last year, we have again reviewed and secured insurance coverage for all our clients to ensure 100% medical and prescription coverage, which is due them by law, is covered at the lowest possible cost. So what we've done is, last fiscal year, roughly we had it was about $230 some odd per person for coverage per month. This year, we were able to secure a much better rate by having a group-type policy. The benefits administrator, Lisa Potts, was able to secure through a Blue Cross Blue Shield a rate that is substantially less. It's approximately $50 per person less, which is about an $1,150 savings per month, on top of any additional co-pays that those people, those 34 clients could incur. Well, actually, there's 22 that are on this policy. No out-of-pocket expenses, no reimbursements to them, so it's all covered under one rate, which is reduces our operating time and management also. So it's a win-win for everyone on that.
The effect of the deductibles and the decreased premium is about $18,000 a year in benefits that we would have paid if we did nothing. And so I think, really that needs to be called out. Both Lisa and Keith have done great work on that.
So one of the final items in your paperwork there is the hospitalization. This is always a wild card. We budgeted the amount, and it may or may not be sufficient. We can't tell if someone's going to be hospitalized. We don't have a crystal ball. And the money that we do have in there, we use primarily, for the most part, our coverage is good. We make sure our people are covered, whether it's through our Blue Cross Blue Shield group policy, through Mass Health. Some of them are VA clients. All of this reduces the out-of-pocket or the town's out-of-pocket expense. There are some wild cards, like I said, but usually that's for, we use that hospitalization line item specifically for ambulance rides, which for the most part aren't covered. So that's the wild card there.
Okay.
And I have increased the revenue side of the equation for the 75% state reimbursement, but it is only for the 14 number because there's a one-year lag. So we won't receive the 75% of the 15 until 16 in its entirety.
Are there any questions on the veterans benefits portion of the budget?
No, I have a question generically. In the news of late has been this issue of less than honorable discharges, which come in a variety of forms. And I guess I know it's not for us to decide how the Department of Veterans Affairs deals with that. The question I'd be curious on, do we have any potential of people who may be in need, if there's any reversal? Are you aware of any of those, Keith, people who would otherwise not qualify for benefits, but could if there were a change in procedures? I understand there's a difference between how the Veterans Administration counts them and versus how the military counts them.
Correct, and we mirrored that policy when we began the Commander Anderson House. We used that as one of our targets.
Do you use the veterans?
You have to be eligible or qualified for VA benefits, which means you have to have an honorable discharge under a general discharge under honorable conditions and nothing below. The next discharge under that would be other than honorable. For the most part, you're not covered under state benefits, but you could seek medical care. And it goes on, like you said, there's about 8 different categories, so it would be hard to gauge that right now.
I was just curious if you had anybody who would come to your table to see.
I can say that we have had someone, a family, actually a veteran with a substantial amount of dependents in this community that was unable to be served because of his discharge. Did not meet the qualifications, yes, and since I've been on board here for the last 3 years. One.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Irma?
I want to recognize Keith and Lisa for their work with the veterans. And it's nice to see the lines increasing. That's a good thing. And this is probably as good a time as any to recognize Keith and Lisa for helping a family, a husband and wife, quite elderly, in a town that he's not responsible for. But they were able to get benefits for this lady and her 100% disabled husband.
Correct. He was deceased and she had become indigent because of the lack of income. Yeah.
Do you want to give like 3 sentences rather than hear me trying to babble and dance around the HIPAA stuff?
It's just
Thank
what,
you, Keith.
it's just what we do because we know that there's a need. We know that without that, and our goal is to sustain them in their home. I think that's one of my major goals, is to make sure that I can keep a veteran, a spouse, or a widow in their home with as many services, wraparound services, as we can get them before that day comes. And it does come eventually for some people that it's just too much, and the family, hopefully they do have family in place. And if they don't, we still take care of them through the state. So we were able to help them. Again, veterans, we didn't really see a boundary. We saw the need. They needed our help, and we were there to help them. So we were fortunate to do that. I was honored, and it's a privilege to do this work every day.
And I'd say that was above and beyond the call, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Irma.
Have good.
Paul?
Keith, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I have an additional question, however. Does the Hingham District Court have a diversion program for the veterans?
Unfortunately, Plymouth County is not part of the diversion-type base program that we have with the Veterans Judicial Office.
Excuse me, Keith. Paul, could you just explain to the folks at home what this issue is?
Well, in some courts, a diversion program for veterans is available in certain circumstances where they qualify. If they're before the court on a criminal matter, working with the Veteran Services, Veterans Administration is what I've seen. We're able to get the veteran steered away, if you will, and not stigmatized by having a criminal conviction attach and handicap their future employability. And I've seen it on a limited basis in Brockton.
Right.
And the judges seem to be quite receptive to that. But you're right. I mean, it's limited. It's
The most successful one we have right now is in Norfolk County, which fortunately I do have a hand in because we do administer benefits with Cohasset in our district, and I am and have been invited up there to see that in full swing. They just graduated their first 3 veterans from the program. It's a year-long program, so unfortunately, more times than not, a veteran really has to be committed and want to do the turnaround like you're talking about, because perhaps they're only facing maybe a 6-month probation at the time, and to go into a year-long program takes commitment. For those that did graduate, it was very successful, and those veterans, men and women, there was a woman who graduated, will be returned back into society a better person for it. So you're right, it does help them. It mainstreams them back. The reintegration process much different than perpetuating that cycle of jail time and abuse. So right now, successfully only Norfolk County, not in Plymouth County.
Is there a reason why they haven't expanded?
It's a pilot program that the VA started. There's about 100 courts nationwide that do this, very successful. In fact, the people that were involved in the Norfolk County program had to go out to, I believe it was Tennessee, but don't quote me on it, for some sort of a conference to get all the background on it and how to administer the program. It's a nationwide type pilot program, but it is working, it is very successful. It just hasn't really caught on yet totally to all the districts.
There was a huge write-up in either the Globe or the Ledger on the program.
Yeah, it really is a good, anything that gets somebody back on track, especially somebody who served their country. It's too bad, though, that it's not vibrant in Plymouth County.
Okay, anything on GAR or anything that...
Yeah, I have 2 other budgets. Any other questions on Veteran Services?
No.
So the next budget is the celebrations.
That's on page 138.
And the summary's on page 12 again. It's, again, pretty straightforward budget, a slight increase of 1.31%, total
Right.
budget of $11,063.
Okay.
So as Ted mentioned, it's less than a 2% increase. That just reflects normal price escalations in flowers, mulch, food, things, wreaths, the flags that we purchase, everything that has to do with the celebrations. And I will point out, as I do every year, that the 4th of July part, although it's lumped into this, that line item is not managed by Veterans Affairs.
Okay.
Any
Comments?
questions?
I'm good.
Good, okay. GAR?
Page 52.
And on the summary, it's on page 9. The budget's $12,589, a $443 increase, 3.65%.
So as Ted mentioned, the overall is less than a 4% increase from the 14 budget. Most of that being utility costs, repair and maintenance of the building. As you know, the building was 125 years old this year. We had quite a celebration. Hopefully you were able to partake in that over the Memorial Day weekend. The weather was inclement, but the troops were there nonetheless, and they were camped on the common. And Mr. Asher had a beautiful view of some Civil War reenactors and a fire, and it was great. One of the other increases that is a quarterly billing increase is the alarm contract, which we had not previously built in, but where we were able to fund due to having some insight and some great working relationships with the fire department. We were told that the Gamewell system in our area was going to be disbanded or dismantled, so that forced us into getting a contract to protect the building. As I mentioned, it's 125 years old. We just had some CPC money in the last 2 years to restore a lot of the artifacts in there, and it was fiducially responsible for us to put that alarm system in there. It's quarterly billed for both security and fire alarm. So the other support on that line item is level funded from 514. That projection is to address the Hingham High School history class field trip that we continue to have. This will be our 5th year. We've already met with the teachers and the department head over at the high school regarding this year's visit, which will be around the end of April. So we usually start early on that, and hopefully this year we'll be able to move some of the veterans. There seems to be a need to have the teachers that are participatory in this program, to have our veterans actually go to the high school during those lessons and present their topics in a school or a classroom setting, and thus leaving, when they get to the field trip, more time for actual hands-on. They get to actually touch the artifacts, look, ask questions. It's very good. It's cost-effective. It's a walking field trip. There's no buses. The kids walk. They brown bag their lunch. So it's a win-win for the school department and us. And the veterans get to tell their stories. And with a dwindling population of World War II and career-era veterans, some of those students may never have the opportunity to speak to those people again.
Great, that's great. Well, we had the opportunity to be in the hall on Saturday morning for a great recognition for some of our students and their writings. And the good part of one of the highlights of the day were the tours of what you've done and what the GAR Hall has done with the facility to make it more welcoming and what it is in recognition for so many of our veterans who have donated not only their time, but in some cases their memorabilia, so that people get to appreciate what they went through. So I thank you for that, and I thank the entire GAR trustee group for that. Any questions from my colleagues?
The only comment I'll make on the reenactors, I don't know who was responsible for picking the group, but they actually slept in those tents in the rain.
They did.
Because we showed up Sunday morning with coffee and stuff. I've never felt more wanted in my entire life.
Right?
Well, but you let them off. They didn't do a 20-mile hike.
We had a volunteer sort of a celebratory committee
Foot Calvary.
subcommittee that we set up, that was headed up by Mary Ann Blackmere
Yeah.
and Ernie Sophis and Scott McMillan and myself and Bob Beal, and we were able to secure them fairly early on. I mean, something like that, of that nature. It also culminated with a 150th of the actual Civil War, so a lot of those groups were already task-tailored to go down to the Gettysburg area, that area. They were having a big jamboree type of thing down there. So we were, knowing that, we forecasted that we were going to need some early RSVP from them. So we were very
were
fortunate
great.
to get them. Yeah.
Good. Paul?
Keith, you mentioned that the veterans are going in, and I take from your comment that they're providing oral histories of their experiences in the service or the...
Correct.
Where they
Some more
served.
than oral. There's been some fascinating slideshows, and I mean, Korean War vet actually had slides. So in this day and age, that's I don't know how we transposed them, but somebody did up at the high school, and we were able to make a PowerPoint out of them. But they were physical slides, and from that, just from talking to slides to PowerPoint projects to actually having memorabilia there. For instance, I bring what I call my battle rattle. That's the vest, the Kevlar helmet, the pack, and just for a moment, having them close their eyes and envision the temperatures reaching 122 degrees, and then we put that on a young man or woman, because I tell them that there's women right with me, and they get to actually try that on for a minute, and it weighs in excess of 60 pounds. And you think about the heat, and then you think about that the ammo's not there, the water, the plates
Right.
for the vest, which is another 30 pounds. It really puts it into perspective when they get to put the hands on. It's more than just coming out of the textbook. Not to say our teachers aren't doing a great job, but as you know, if you get to physically touch something, you're reminded how that works. And we get a lot of thank you notes usually after that, and we post them on the board down on the second floor there, so they're there to view.
I actually, I can appreciate that, because when I was a young officer, I went into my children's classes and, dressed up in the uniform and let them touch a piece of the equipment. But my thought was that I believe there's some kind of videotape capability up at the high school, and it would be such a great thing if some of those oral histories could be recorded on video so that they could be preserved for future generations of Hingham students.
We actually did talk about that this year, about putting them on actual DVD and having that, because again, like I mentioned, the greatest generation are quickly slipping by our midst at a rate of about 1,500 a day nationwide. So that puts that into perspective, that once that story is gone, it's hard to retell it.
That's right. That's right.
It's like the rebel yell, lost to history.
Well, Keith, if you're in the background narrating this, as you were talking, you brought back glorious memories of Fort Leonard Wood in July.
Mosquitoes as big as cats.
I don't know, I lost two guys in my platoon. We haven't found them since, so.
My son spotted him out there.
Yeah, it is. That is a memory, but you're very descriptive, and it's well said what Paul is saying. Having that memory captured would be important for our history, that's for sure. Any questions, Mr. Hersey?
Yes, my name is John Hersey. When are you going to address the U.S. Marine dog graves up the DPW site? They're inaccessible to the public. You can't get in there. There's no handicap availability there.
Right. The only thing that I really am tasked to do, or responsible for, I work closely with a local resident, and we constantly replace the flags up there. We make sure that the grounds are kept. As far as the access, I'm not sure how you would go about doing that.
Well, that's something I'm asking you to find out. Because I think the public has a right to go up there and visit the graves, and now you can't. They're inaccessible. It's unacceptable.
I think that gate referring to on the back gate and the front gate of the DPW during, I think after 1630 or 430 your is closed. So to drive up there is inaccessible. The only way to egress that is there's like a staircase.
No railing. which
Yeah,
is
it's not
illegal. Brought that up before.
handicap accessible or,
Well, just for the benefit of the residents that may be watching this, we're talking about some markers for some canine mascots that were once
Correct.
property of the United States Marine Corps?
Yes.
During the Second World War?
prior to that, actually.
Okay.
But they were there from as Butch Bismarck and I can't think of the last dog's name, but they are buried there. They were buried there with full honors. There is a kiosk there, which is in need of repair again. We had a local Eagle Scout do some work there some years back.
But if you were to go up to the DPW during business hours and park, you could walk right to it, couldn't you?
Correct.
You can't get up there.
Well, you can't just park and walk. I've done that.
Can't go in there.
When?
Where?
Mr.
The
Hersey,
sign says authorized personnel only, and I'm not authorized, I can't go up there.
in the garage.
In the
It
garage.
says authorized personnel. And the issue you're talking about is,
I'm talking about the gate at the back of the DPW that's locked every 4:30, every single night. There's a sign that says authorized personnel only, okay? I can read signs. When you go to the DPW, the office, when you park your car, there's a sign that says do not enter. I can read, okay? So you can't get up there, you can't drive there.
I think it's like-
And if the gates are closed, you can't get in there, you're a handicap.
Well, like most parks, I live across from Foundry Pond Reservation. There's a sign there also that says, it has a gate similar to the one he's talking about. You're unable to access Foundry Pond from sunrise to from sunset to sunrise. So there's no lighting down there and that gate is closed. So I would assume that's a similar safety type precaution, so you're not up there during the night hours.
What I'm saying is you can't access these graves night or day. Night, I mean like 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock in the summertime.
Right.
You can't because everything's closed there.
Right.
I'm asking you to look into the issue, okay? I think the graveyard should be open so somebody can go up there and visit the graves.
why don't they go during the day when they can see them?
Maybe they're working.
I just explained, the sign says do not enter. How are you going to get in there?
Take a look at it.
Thanks.
Okay.
What's that?
Very quick.
Thank you.
Thank you,
thanks,
Pete.
Keith. Good job. Next budget is town clerk and elections.
Page 20.
And on your summary, it appears town clerk is on page 8, and the elections budget is on page 9. The town clerk's budget shows a fairly good-sized reduction in salaries as a result of change of personnel. People coming in at lower steps, people retiring at older steps. There's an additional request of $159, which I've recommended. And overall, it's a 4.05% reduction in their budget from year to year.
Can we,
I'm good, huh?
can we just, can we just take this?
Eileen.
You know, Eileen, we're going to bring you in first. That's,
Hold
You
your
should get
fire
some
till you get
kind
the
of
elections
reward.
budget. Uh-oh. A little different increase on the elections budget.
Yes.
so any comment, let's talk town clerk. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's only because I do have new personnel that have changed jobs. But other than that, just the raise in the postage, because I hadn't raised my postage in a few years, and the postage has gone up, so I'm just
No.
making the adjustment.
We've got to figure out a way, at some point, we'll get to electronic. You know, I guess, what's the post office closing? Another 1,000 proposed units? So, anyway, but that's
Great.
for another discussion.
Yes.
How about elections? Would you like to?
So the election budget is on page 9 of your summary.
Page 23 in the backup.
And there are no additional requests. I'm recommending the requested budget of $34,995, which is a 96% increase over the prior year. But again, this budget is fairly much bound by the requirement to have elections.
I will have 3 elections this year, and last year I was only scheduled to have 1. I had 3, because we had the special elections for the Harry's position.
Right. Okay.
But other than that, it's pretty normal.
And when she says last year, she's referring
I
to
meant
2013.
2013,
So if you look
yes.
at 14, it's,
Sorry.
17,000. I think we're budgeting for,
Just one election.
well, the annual.
Yes, the annual town
And
election.
then
Just the town.
Just the town.
Just the town election, correct. And next year, there will be 3.
Okay. Mr. Healy?
Always a pleasure to see you, Eileen.
Thanks, Paul.
Your budgets are way too easy.
I know.
You can't even come up with a question.
I know, it's tough to follow Keith.
We'll put you in the notes for my successor. We'll put you first next year, so
That'd be nice.
set the tone.
The only other thing that maybe I do have is that my booths are getting a little old, and I am going to have them fixed. I could buy them, but they only have a heavy aluminum type that you can buy. And the wooden ones have withstood for many years. So we're going to have, some of them will be repaired, and other ones we will be replacing. We're going to replace all of the middle school, and then whatever we have left from the middle school, we'll be able to replace others at the high school.
And we're kind of hoping we're going to get an Eagle Scout project out of some of it. Nobody's
That's a good
picked it
idea.
yet, but it's on the list.
And I do have money from a fund that I get, extra monies from the state, so I didn't have to go for any capital outlay.
Oh, good.
Great.
Okay?
That's good. Bob, I'm sending her home now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Merry
To
Christmas.
the folks at home, Eileen's husband works the cameras here, so I hope there were close-ups. Mr. Administrator,
Sure, your
Treasurer.
next budget is the treasurer collector's budget. The summary appears on page 8 in the
And the
detail.
backup's on page 14.
And I'd welcome our
Yes.
town treasurer.
Would you inform the public?
Sure.
If you would?
I believe it was early last week, the governor signed the bill that was passed by the House and the Senate that has changed Jean's position from elected to appointed. I'll be giving you a document pursuant to that we talked about prior to town meeting that restores some level of benefits that Jean wasn't entitled to as an elected official. She is now. And well, Jean, not much has changed. Jean's still doing exactly what she was doing terrifically. She is this year a slight change, supporting the capital outlay committee process. I thought that was a great use of her skill set, especially as capital outlay starting to look at borrowing and debt financing for some of the projects. And of course, Jean handles our debt financing. So.
Great. Well, thank you for stepping up to do that. Thank you and congratulations.
We used to do it, yes.
Thank you.
And with respect,
Accomplishment. They're all to be commended. It's a long time coming.
Thank you.
with respect to her budget, just like the town clerk before her, right across the hall, Jean provided a fairly straightforward budget for me to deal with this year. It's $370,140. It represents a $5,127 increase solely within payroll, 4-step increases, longevity changes and things like that, mandatory contractual items, a 1.4% increase for the budget year over year. So very straightforward for me.
I had to follow Keith and Eileen. When I saw that, I said,
Did you get a new postage machine yet?
we did. The new
Yay.
postage machine was funded last year through capital.
Right.
And the boxes are in our office right now. We'll be getting set up sometime next week.
Super.
Came in just right on budget, so the new contract through the state came in about $500 less than the money we had asked for, so it's all on schedule. Good. Other than that, it's business as usual in the treasurer collector's office.
The way we like it.
Not much to say, since there's not much to address with the budget. It's pretty dry, nothing exciting. I might say to the taxpayers, the one thing you may have noticed that's a little different is when you get your tax bills now, you will have a return envelope enclosed in it, and I've had some questions on it because the return address goes to Woburn, and that's just a P.O. box for a service that helps with the processing of the bulk mail that it comes in during heavy times. And that's alleviated some of the clerical work at the office and has actually allowed us, you may or may not know, that we are now also collecting the sewer use revenue for the sewer department since it went over to the DPW. And I did not put in any extra funding for that. And part of the reason for that is the offset with the reduction in some of the tax processing during heavy times, but we're picking up the sewer use collections and billing. So that's a little bit of a change, and that explains, the return envelope that's not coming back to Hingham.
Great.
Other than
Thank you for that.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Not
No.
a question.
Thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to see you. Thank you.
And welcome aboard officially.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Merry Christmas.
All right, your next budget is the Community Planning Department, and I see our Community Planning Director here.
That's on page 26.
And the summary will be on page 9. Roman numerals.
Hi, Mary.
Hello.
The Community Planning Department budget is being recommended to you by myself at $757,463. It is an 11.5% increase. I have recommended $68,546 of a $93,446 additional request for personnel, and I'll let Mary explain to you those requests.
And did they get the backup?
All right, Mary, could you just introduce yourself? Folks?
Betty, was this put
Yes.
in their folders?
Yes.
So they have this.
Okay, very good. My name's Mary Savage Dunham. I'm the Director of Community Planning, and I have a handout if anyone in the audience would like to see one. The Community Planning Department is really a tale of two departments. Our main workload is associated with supporting our regulatory boards. We have 5 boards and commissions that staff within our department support, and also permitting. That and customer service is our main function here at the town. Permitting tends to track with the economy, and the economy has been on somewhat of a roller coaster in recent years, as you all know. And what we're finding now is that permitting levels are very high. And I don't have the benefit of the history of being here for the roller coaster part of it. But what I've seen in the numbers that I've looked at is that permitting was fairly high in 2007 and began to decline. The low point in Hingham was in 2009, both with regard to number of permits as well as revenue from permitting. And the staffing levels that I see history of within what were then separate departments, but are now part of community planning, is that the staffing levels contracted with the economy. And some of that was due to decrease in workload, I presume, and some of it was due to positions becoming vacant, turnover. And the numbers that I've seen now are indicating a steady climb since 2009, both in revenues as well as number of permits. There's been some changes since 2007 with regard to bylaws and regulations, and some permits that we might have used to get, we don't, and we get new ones. So trying to track a straight line with the exact number is a little difficult, but certainly we are very busy now. I won't read the backup that I passed out to you word from word, but I will pull out some points from it. What I did observe with the contraction of staffing as the economy contracted was that it was clerical support and really assistance were the staffing that we lost hours on, or people, or not people, positions. And that's okay. But now, as we're starting to get busier, we're starting to feel the impact of that, because as workload continues to increase, obviously, we haven't added staff back to prior levels. And what does that mean operationally? This can translate into longer waits for permits to be reviewed, and by law, the building department has 30 days to process a building permit. Our customers tend to prefer to have things move along more expediently, and we like to do that. Right now, we're operating with about a 2-week turnaround on building permits, and that's pretty good, but we have quite a backlog of permits waiting to be processed. And so that's one impact, but we're still well within the legal requirement for processing permits in the building department. Another impact of not having a robust clerical or support staff can mean that the department heads end up taking on more of the clerical tasks. Now, is that okay? Sure, that's okay. I mean, the work's getting done. The impact from that is that some of the other tasks that you may prefer to have your department working on become deferred because the department head is diverted doing administrative paperwork. I mean, it's fairly, it's common, so I won't belabor the point. The other impact that I see is that sometimes department heads don't have the ability to perhaps delegate things that they might. And so again, it's an opportunity cost, and that's okay. I mean, that happens in business. As I said, permitting and development activity remains high, and that's a very good thing for Hingham, and it's keeping staff very busy. Another thing that I would explain with regard to permitting is that as we work with our regulatory boards and perhaps an application comes in and it's processed and approved by the planning board and the zoning board, the work with that project doesn't end there on the staff end of it. Staff continues to be busy with that project, sometimes for many months, sometimes years, doing construction management, ongoing inspections, helping the contractors, and following the project through to ensure that it's built per the approval of the boards. And so that's a staff function that we all do that isn't necessarily as visible, but it does certainly take us out of the office and perhaps away from some of the administrative tasks. Now, that's the permitting end of the community planning department. We are a tale of two departments. I just want to highlight a few success stories that I've seen in the short time that I've been here. The consolidation of the departments, the historic, planning, zoning, building, and zoning has been wonderful, at least from my perspective. It's provided new opportunities for staff to streamline customer service and identify efficiencies. There's been a great support for collaborative efforts, both within the department and then in the broader community within the town. There's been wonderful support for collaboration, and now we're starting to find increasing ways to collaborate with various members of the community and provide added benefits to the town. Now, why can we do that? Over the past several years, with the turnover of the staff and the consolidation of the department, we've added additional technical capacity with your new hires. It seems that as great as our staff are, when a position becomes vacant, we're fortunate enough to attract highly skilled people to come in and bring added value to the town. So this has been wonderful for community planning. Our department heads are very strong, highly qualified. They're consultant grade professionals, as with the rest of the departments in town. And we're finding an opportunity to either support or lead other efforts that go beyond regulatory. And I've provided a list for you in your handout, and I won't belabor the list, but the point of the conversation is that these are opportunities that your staff have to take on broader roles to support the goals and priorities of the administration, and probably find efficiencies because you have people on your payroll. I don't want to say watchdogging, but really shepherding and helping projects through the process where you don't need to necessarily pay a consultant for as much of that work. So although it's not really seen in the bottom line, it is a benefit to the process within the town. Some of the major initiatives that have started and that are also on our radar moving forward are the FEMA work that's going on, and there's a number of different sections of that. There's the LOMR, the Letter of Map Revision process, that's going, right now it's underway, and we're expecting an update on December 20th to that process. But there's also the Community Rating System program that we'd like to apply for. It will be a good amount of work to put the application together, but once we put it in, we're hoping to secure a community-wide reduction in flood insurance rates for the town. So we'll be diverting staff resources to focus on that, as that's a priority for the town. We've been busy doing grant writing and administration, and although that does also take staff time, we feel that if we have an opportunity to leverage outside resources to help support the priorities that have been identified by the board and the administration, that's a benefit to the town, although there are administrative duties associated with it. So we've been very busy with that. The 43D submittal has gone in, and there's some interest in perhaps expanding that area. And the Bucket Town book is underway within the historic department. And all of these great things and more that I won't mention are collaborative efforts within our department, within, between our department and other town staff. But we're also finding that there's such a rich network of resources within the community that if we're able to free up department heads to do more outreach and team building, we're finding even more benefits. And one great example of that is, as we're looking to develop land management plans for conservation lands at the direction of the Conservation Commission, we're also looking to improve our forest management planning practices. And right now, Abby Pearsall is working closely with Jeff Handrahan and Randy Sylvester, and we also have a former resident, Charlie Hancock. He's very engaged and interested in forest management. He's actually not living in Hingham now, but he's from Hingham. He works in the industry up in Vermont, and he's been reaching out to staff to talk about his ideas and opportunities for best management, for resources that we could leverage, his thoughts on opportunities that lie before Hingham. So because we've allocated or delegated some of the work that Abby Pearsall has to do to the Assistant Conservation Officer, she's freed up to collaborate with town staff and also interested residents to find increased benefits and efficiencies for the town. And I think that that's really a win-win. And as I sit before you asking for, which I feel bad now that everyone else had reductions and I'm asking for money for staffing, I give you this handout and I tell you examples of this because these are all benefits to the town. But if, as we look at our workload and our priorities, if we're diverting or I have to divert department heads to work on clerical duties or more routine tasks, I can if that's the will of the board and the town. But then it's an opportunity cost because some of this other fine work may not have the leadership that we would love to provide. And so our budget request, we're really trying to be conservative, but we're proposing to staff to the needs that we have now. Our department will always work above and beyond what we think we can, but that was the source of the requests.
One of the reasons that I added and agreed to a significant portion of the requests was that the town made a conscious decision to bring in staff, both in the zoning and in the conservation office, and upgrade those positions to attract talent with broader skill sets. And now we're able, as Mary indicated, Abby has been able to head up the FEMA project. Emily is heading up the Route 3A corridor project, which is going to really take quite a bit of work as we, work with MAPC and Mass Highway on Mass DOT on that endeavor. It seems very counterproductive to have them drained of their time by having to do a significant amount of clerical work, which is important. I mean, we do need to get minutes of meetings posted. We need to get them out. We need to communicate to the public, the things that we're doing, and mostly those are largely in the clerical roles.
Okay, thank you. That was, I know you were pressed for time there, so I appreciate your being sensitive.
Talk longer if you like.
No, that's okay. You can talk all the way to April, as far as I'm concerned. I guess what I'd like, Ted, to see more on, what's going to be better as a result of the additions? And I don't mean you to answer that tonight, Mary, but I'd like to see, you started off you have a 30-day obligation to reapply. and then to respond with 14 days. Are we going to move it to 10? We're going to move it to 12. I'd like to see some metrics that describe the benefit we'll see. Because when I have to compare, we have to compare your performance, it's, as you know, it's an allocation of resources is the debate. So anything you could do to reinforce that, and then you use the word, I think I stroked it 5 times, collaboration, and I appreciate that. And I know, given where we were when we had 5 separate departments, how, that was the purpose in doing this. So it would be good if you could start to give us some more quantification as to what the benefits are. And I know in the selection process, we now have people both in conservation and in planning that have other skill sets, which is, and how can we appreciate and get the benefits of that collaborative staffing effort? So that would be good and helpful to us. Let's see. I think you're next.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Or Paul can go if he's...
No. He's the expert, so we're going to let him.
Oh, excuse me.
It's a big word.
Well, I'm the neophyte, so...
Literally.
Mary, I think your community planning does a great job. My concern is the creep of government and the increase of the headcount and the associated benefits that go with it. When community planning was formed, it was formed to streamline business processes, or process, as my British friend calls it. And I'm wondering if something's been lost there. It was only partially because of the downturn, because we used to have a lot more inspectors. And then when the building permits tanked, well, we had to let several of them go. The work wasn't there. My concern here, and I think you do very good work, is that are we adding back staff without looking, is there a better way to do this? And to Bruce's point, I'd like to see metrics here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and you can pick them. We're not the experts here, but I think, and I'll tell you a story, and he lives in this town now as a result. It was somebody who was a business person who lived in Hanover, and he said to me 3 years ago when we started this process, he had a before and after experience. He said, starting the consolidated effort, he said, the message we sent was we're open for business. And I think now, let's get beyond the concept. I think to Irma's point, let's start to measure what does that mean. So if people come in and they give us a request, how long is it going to take that permit to be processed? When they give it to us, so we can tell them, you'll have this in 4.5 days or 5 days. And that's the area we start to get better too. And I appreciate that doesn't always just happen overnight, but now we need to start to focus on that. So I'm speaking, sorry, go ahead.
Speaking.
Whatever.
I was at an occasion at the country club last night, and a gentleman came up to me and reminded me of when I was the chairman of the planning board in the mid-'90s. And he was talking about the water from Town Brook being impacted by a project and how we had set conditions that spoke to that. But now he's concerned about the FEMA floodplain map. So to me, what you're speaking to is more than just a 30-day or a 2-week response window. I mean, this is the kind of service to the town that's measured in decades, in your ability to respond effectively to it. Because, fortunately, I was able to speak somewhat coherently about the issues, although not with the kind of knowledge that you certainly have. I mean, my thing on this is you have a lot of projects here, and in my mind, everybody's project is the most important to them. But having said that, I know that being in the permitting process, if you're pulled in every direction, then you have to stretch out your reviews of the projects before you. You're basically, I won't say we're at the mercy of the applicant, but it is the applicant's decision as to whether to grant a continuance. And if we don't have the resources in place to address the components of the application before us, it makes it problematic for review. One of the things that I was, a little saddened not to see here is the issue of maintaining the initiative of the zoning initiatives that in the decade of 2000 to 2010, we tried to do with regularity. I suspect that that's probably in part due to the other demands that are upon you. But I do believe that having a zoning bylaw that's, reflective of the realities of the times we live in is very important. And by that I mean, I guess I had kind of anticipated seeing something on accessory apartments at least being discussed. And that didn't happen, and that's very disappointing to me. But perhaps it's because of the other demands that are upon you at this point.
This is not a comprehensive list,
Sure.
just in fairness, and we are working on some zoning regulation amendments, and we did discuss many things. So I'm working at the direction of the board on those.
Understood.
Overall, what I would tell you is that this budget anticipates increased permitting activity. We think it's on an upswing. And when I speak to some of the larger developers in town and some of the smaller ones, their business is picking up right now. We're seeing it in the Board of Health. I think one of the things you're going to see those metrics, Mr. Chairman, is that we're going to struggle to keep that 14-day time period if we don't add staff. And we're going to start pushing back on it. But we'll get you those matrices because I think that's appropriate to do, and we'll prove those points. I know we had some of that data, and we don't always inundate you with it, but we will.
I would also like to point out that the issuance of the permit is only part of the story.
No question.
The follow-on, inspections conducted by the building department or the Conservation Commission, Board of Health, whatever the case may be, is extremely important, because if the stuff is built wrong, then that affects the safety of the people that are inside the structures.
And that's why I'm saying I'd like you to tell us the metrics that you're tracking, because to that point, you do an inspection once and it fails. What's the implications of that, and how many are there of those, and what was the problem for that caused that? Was it in the application not being thorough? What was the reason that we fall back? And that's why I think it would be helpful, because to your point, if you need resources, we want to make sure you get them. But I'd like to be able, for the benefit of the citizens, to make sure that we're tracking them. And I think we could all sit here and wax eloquently on how many angels in the head of the pin we need to quantify this, but that's where we got to go, because we're in this world that's very complicated. Sure.
Sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Just as a follow-on point for adding resources to community planning for all the right reasons, we did not add resources to the Board of Health in their budget. So I think an overall look at the whole picture. I'm really happy to see a forest management plan. We don't have one. The last time any real work was done, that I'm told, was when Franny Ford.
Tree and Park.
Serious work was done in the town forest. And it needs to be done. Randy certainly doesn't have the arms and legs to do it, but I think a forest management plan would be great. I think that'd be super.
Good point on the health. I talked with Ted about that yesterday, and we'll talk about that more, obviously. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments, Mary? Anybody from the audience? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether you want to consider it now, but there is one vote here that has to do with Mary's department, and that's approval of an administrative review of certain applications by the conservation officer.
Sure. Ted?
Mary will
Explain that.
overview that for you. It's a vote that is required of the Board of Selectmen, should you desire to follow.
At the November 4th meeting, the Conservation Commission voted unanimously to amend the wetlands regulations for the town of Hingham to provide administrative reviews of limited projects. This was one of our efforts to streamline customer service and find efficiencies for the public. This administrative review process allows the conservation officer to issue decisions on projects that meet certain performance standards and would result in a small potential impact to wetlands resources. Now, in English, what that means is that the town of Hingham's wetland bylaw is more stringent than the State Wetlands Act. So there may be, at times, activities that the state would consider exempt, but it triggers the town of Hingham bylaw. And the Conservation Commission thought about that and was thinking, are there things that we don't need to have a full hearing for? Now, a hearing requires a $50 application fee, and then it takes 21 days or less to get a hearing. You may receive a vote that night, or it could be continued. And you have to advertise. The advertising cost is borne by the taxpayer, and that's about $100. So if you're coming in and you want to put up a small garden shed, maybe you need to repair your septic system, where health might approve it, but there's no increase in flows, but you're in a regulated area, so you're kind of caught behind the 8 ball. You need to do the project. Perhaps you have a failed cesspool, you're doing demolition, some small landscaping, a deck, a small addition. Some of those matters the conservation thought about and determined that because they have staff with a great technical skill set, they're very comfortable with her, she's very knowledgeable and skilled. She is in a position where she could make decisions on some of those matters administratively, and so if you have a failed cesspool, instead of having to go through the process with the $50 and the advertising and perhaps waiting 1 to 2 months, there could be an administrative review. Administrative review means the decision is processed within 10 days, and the Conservation Commission felt that a fee of $30 would be appropriate to cover the administrative process of that. The benefit to the taxpayer is, of course, a quicker answer on some of these minor projects, streamlined government, and the benefit to the commission is that they have more time to focus on the more involved or sensitive projects. So it's a win-win. So as I stated, the vote before you tonight is for the $30 fee.
How many of these do we have in a year? Do we know?
This was just approved November 6th.
No,
so
I mean in terms of these special projects. How many of those are there like this that today have to go to the 21-day window, and this is trying to get it to a 10-day? Do you know?
I haven't counted it.
It's not an insignificant amount, but we also think that there potentially could be a number of projects that ought to have gone through that process and haven't also, because people are worried about the 21 days, the advertising, don't want to interact with the government, so they just do it on their own, and that creates another problem for us down the road. One point that I think that we want to mention is, as a control, whatever is approved by the conservation officer is reported to the Conservation Commission, so the commission's aware of what's being done essentially on their behalf at their next meetings. So.
Well, that's another one of those metrics we'd like to see, just to track it, to Ted's point. So,
I mean, are you saying that this is basically somebody comes in with a project that would arguably be subject to site plan review, but you make a threshold determination that it's de minimis in nature, so you essentially waive site plan review and sign off on it yourself? Is it analogous to that, or?
Similar, I think.
But we're not proposing that.
Well,
at all.
That's good.
So, analogous, but different.
We do already have that process in place for site plan, but
Correct,
we
but
won't
not-
discuss it.
not in the
We'll
same-
focus
not in the
on
same
conservation.
scope.
These are for the really minor things. Right now, just about anything within a regulated area has to go before the Conservation Commission, and I think that Ted's completely correct. There's some things that either are just so minor.
Does that foreclose, the issue of notice with respect to a neighbor who, you know, may have a voice on what's going on. I think this is a little vague. I guess I'd like greater clarity on what this truly means. You've talked about the cesspool issue. Yeah, I don't know if that's the context that it arises in, but that's my hesitation to.
Right, so am I hearing you would like to have some more
I'd like more
definition?
details.
Yeah, more definition around administrative review. What's the definition of limited projects? Is that-
Please.
Yeah, maybe you could just give us a list
Yeah.
of examples.
I do have a list of examples here. I actually asked Abby that before she left for the day, and the examples that she provided to me are small garden sheds, repairs of septic systems where health approves and there's no increase in flow, like replacing a failed cesspool with a compliant system, demolition, invasive species removal, landscaping, small home additions, decks. Those things would likely be exempt from the State Wetlands Act. The town of Hingham would require a full permit for those. But I can certainly provide a copy.
And again, only in context of the conservation. So none of the other issues are being waived. No building permit requirements.
So site plan review is not waived.
That's not being waived if it's required under the, you know, under the planning or zoning regulations.
So maybe what we could do, if you have that definition, maybe we could amend the vote next week and put the list of those projects that this would include. And that'll give us a chance to think about it.
Sure.
And make sure it accomplishes what you want. And
Or the other way to look at it, maybe what is excluded, like any project requiring a site plan review.
Yeah.
Since that's kind of one of the,
Well, that's,
Yeah, I probably used the wrong
yeah, that's not,
comparison.
yeah, because conservation wouldn't be.
Mary, you know what I mean.
I do. I'll get you information on the notice and the full language from the regulations for conservation as well for background.
Sure, that's great. That's great.
And the Conservation Commission did, by the way, request to you, so this is not coming from staff, it's coming from the
No,
Conservation
no, I
Commission.
appreciate that. It's-
Right, they did amended their regulations for the town. So this is just purely about
Regulations need to be
the fee.
approved here by the Board of Selectmen, so that's what we're doing right
Yeah,
now.
and I think that's, yeah, to Ted's point, that's why we need, just so we know exactly what it is we're approving, I think is Paul and Irma's point.
We'll clarify that a little bit better for you for your
That would
next
be
meeting.
great. Okay, thank you, Mary. Thank you.
So, Mary?
sure.
Okay.
The next budget is the library.
Oh,
See Mr. Corcoran and see some of the trustees here. And bring up one more chair. Sure. You have two trustees.
The library is on page 120.
And the summary budget is on page 12. 12 seems to be the page today.
so,
I'll give you just a quick overview of the budget before Dennis will take you into more of the detail. The budget request this year was $1,490,687, an increase request of $13,575 in expenses, of which I approved and recommend to you all of those increases. The total budget will be $1,504,262. That is recommended to you for an increase of 1.49% over last year.
Thank you. I'm Dennis Corcoran, Library Director, Town of Hingham.
Dennis, could you introduce
Yes.
folks at home?
Yes,
We know who they are.
two of my trustees are here, and I thank them for coming and supporting my presentation of the budget. We have our Treasurer and Vice President, Ed Siegfried, and our President, David Mahegan, who's here as well.
Thank you.
As Ted said, most of the items in the budget request for this year, salaries, for example, are really only including step raises, so there's really no appreciable increase in that particular area. Most of the action, so to speak, is in the expense category, and there are a few small items where we've actually asked for some increases within the level services budget, and I'll talk a little bit about the new initiatives separately, if that's the way to go, Ted, okay, however you'd like it done. In the repair and maintenance building line, we asked for a little more money, and as you can see, if you look at our actual fiscal year 13, it's more than what we appropriated for the 14 budget. But to speak specifically to what the increase means in terms of the 15 request, what we're looking to do is to focus on some slate repairs on the building. We haven't really gotten around to doing much with the slate on the mansard, and I've noticed an increase in the number of slates that have fallen on the ground.
Oops.
So that is whoops. So we need to accelerate our repairs to that area and need to undertake really a more comprehensive approach to that work. So I'm asking for a little bit more money to accomplish that. We haven't done a slate inspection in probably several years, and obviously they're dangerous if they fall in the wrong location. And I want to make sure that the area that is right near the staff entrance checked, and it's in pretty decent shape. But there are some on the outer areas of the library that have fallen on the East Street side of the building, and so they just need to be attended to. And I'd like to take a focused approach to it rather than a piecemeal. So it will require some inspection and repairs. Another item is repair and maintenance HVAC. Always my favorite topic, unfortunately, but as you can see, we had a pretty good year in 13. We budgeted a little bit more money in 14 and are asking for a small increase in the 15 budget. And we're doing that because there's a sensitivity to what we're seeing happening in 14. We've had a few more issues than I would have liked, so it's reflected in the budget. Some of the things longer term that we need to talk about, we talk with capital, are that equipment is aging. It seems like yesterday that we did this renovation, but it'll shortly be 15 years, or 14 or 15 years on the equipment.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and the useful life of some of the equipment that the industry assigns is 15 years. So we need to be carefully attuned to what's going on with us. But we are seeing a slight uptick in some of the maintenance items associated with HVAC. The other things, natural gas, we're hoping that we can pull off what we did last year and just sort of hold our own, stay where we are. You've seen some years where our natural gas consumption was a little higher and a little more expensive. The telephone is interesting, and I have to say that it's attributable. The increase is attributable to needing to add lines for fire alarm monitoring because of the change in the policy and the practice of the town. So it requires 2 lines according to the vendor that we do our business with to make it work properly. Those lines don't exist currently. We use an entirely different technology, as you probably know, a radio frequency technology, which will go away under the new approach. Let's see, books, which are under 5250. We're asking for an increase to help us maintain compliance with our state aid guidelines. The trustees provide the predominant amount of the materials budget or book budget, and we're asking the town to increase its share of the book budget so that we can continue to be in compliance. We basically are required to spend a minimum of 15% of our operating budget on library materials. So that's what that increase is reflecting. One that may be of interest to you is our meetings and seminar, which there's a contractual obligation to carry a certain amount for education for the staff as well, and though it's not always used every year entirely, but there is a much of what's in that particular budget is a requirement under collective bargaining. Let's see, another item. The alarm installation is, again, a part of that change where we'll have to spend approximately $800 for the equipment and then another $650 for the monitoring per year. So the installation cost is obviously a one-time charge and will go away. Let's see what else that's there. Everything else is pretty much straightforward and, a part of the level services budget. Probably of interest to you are the new requests that we're making. And we focused those on one-time things. These are not going to be recurring requests. So one of the ones I will first of all talk to you about is a request for $3,000, which would be, again, assigned to our meetings and seminar line item for 2 staff people to attend a library design symposium at Harvard Design School. And the reason we're proposing this is that we're starting as a library, believe it or not, to begin to look at how the library may need to be reorganized for the 21st century. We're seeing, obviously, our business has been impacted a lot by electronic technology. The way people are using the building is changing. One of the major changes for us is in lifelong learning. We're become a thriving center in the community for lifelong learning. So I think that we're at a point where we're studying what those options might need to be, and what this would do is allow us to begin to prepare some of the documents that we're going to need for future grant processes, where we're going to try to get state grants for design and construction at some point along the way. So that's basically what that is, and I'd be happy to try to elaborate on any of the questions you might have relative to that. Do you want me to proceed through all of the requests, or take them one by one, however? Okay.
Especially the additional request.
Yeah. There's another request under R&M, Repair and Maintenance Building. Short title for this is something called Automatic Door Opener for Children's Room Entrance Exit. For years, the Children's Department has been asking me, pleading with me, would you consider doing what you've done with the front entrance, which is basically a handicapped access kind of tool for getting people into the building, where the doors will open automatically when you press a button. It isn't so much that the people who are coming in through the children's entrance, which was the former town office building entrance, have mobility problems. They have children in tow with carriages, and so they struggle to get in and out of that entrance. So at this point, we're hoping to be able to add this, which turned out to be a much more modest expenditure than I thought it would be. It's a $3,900 item, minor electrical work that goes along with it. So that's basically what that request is. The others, there's another one with a short title called Building Maintenance Exterior Equipment. We've broken these into 2 categories, interior and exterior. The request on the exterior items are actually kind of comical. Some of the stuff is so old. We need to replace a 21-inch self-propelled lawnmower. Our original mower, the mower that we're using, is from 1995, so it's showing a little bit of wear and tear. The self-propelled 2-stage snow blower that we need to replace is from 2003. It's going to get a workout, I think, on Sunday, but it's getting a little long in the tooth as well. And there's a request for a commercial grade pressure washer that we're asking for, which is for $350. Ironically, we've never owned one of these, and it's useful in cleaning up sidewalks and the brick if something gets on it. So that's basically what that is. But the key here, the takeaway should be that our equipment is aging. and we haven't replaced it. We never even, in some cases, bought new equipment when we did the renovation and expansion. The building maintenance interior equipment, looking to replace a vacuum that we have with a more a commercial grade vac that's got a wider footprint to be able to be a little bit more efficient in cleaning up the wide expanse of carpet. We're heavily carpeted. And that leads into the other piece of equipment, which is a compact carpet extractor for $2,375. Our machine that we have now is from 1988 and not doing very well. And the last item is for a request under furnishings and equipment to replace some basic equipment that we need. Book trucks, the things that are used to move the books to be reshelved. We're asking for a couple of those. They're $300 each. Asking for a display cabinet for large print books. We're hoping that happens because we find some of our senior citizens have a hard time seeing the books on the lower shelves, and this will position them at a level, the new books anyway, at a level that they'll be able to access them a little easier while getting on the knees and not getting up, kind of thing. So that's basically what we're talking about. These are all pretty much one-time requests. You won't see them again.
Well, based on the age of the lawnmower, I think I've been through 4 since 1995, so I have no complaints about that. Dennis, just for the benefit of the public,
yes.
Maybe we certification from the state.
Yes.
Maybe you could just update the public on where we are on that.
Right. Fortunately, in this fiscal year, we've managed to, that's 14, we've managed to meet all of our obligations. As you probably remember, we were applying for waivers over several years in order to get our state aid and to be compliant with all of the requirements for reciprocal borrowing among libraries. And we've worked our way out of it slowly but surely, and thanks to the support of this board, the advisory committee, we've managed to extract ourselves from the waiver process, which we had many libraries that are, I would call, good company in that. It was a struggle for cities and towns to meet some of their obligations, and the one standard that we were failing was not the standard related to library materials. It was the standard related to something called the municipal appropriation requirement, which, to probably simplify it, is the average of the last 3 years municipal appropriation times 2.5%, setting a new floor for the next budget year. So we've overcome that finally. So I'm deeply happy about that, because it's such a bureaucratic process to go through and secure the approval. And even though they assured us, we're going to get the waiver that we needed over the years, it's still a little touch and go. So I'm glad to have that behind us.
That's good. Thank you. Well, I thought, having participated with you through those dialogues, if that's the word.
Heard me talk about it too much.
Yeah,
I know.
And while Ed is here, just again for the benefit, Ed, if you guys have done a wonderful job in getting your funds up to speed, and I thought maybe you'd like to, we're going to be doing some fundraising hopefully soon, and perhaps you could just talk to us about the status of your library funds. Thank you.
Ed Siegfried, the library trustee. The trustee budget runs around $200,000 a year, and about, I'd say 40% of that comes from fundraising activities, the annual fundraising drive, plus other grants and donations that sort of come in over the transom. The other, 60% of the money comes from a combination of things. State aid is about $25,000 a year out of the $200,000. And then we generate probably another $60,000 or $70,000 from bookstore sales revenue and Actually, fine revenue is a huge source of revenue. So I won't mention any names here tonight of people who have overdue money. So I don't want to embarrass anyone. I know. Keep it low, yeah, we'll keep it low. But, yeah, we had a very successful fundraising effort last year. I think we raised close to $60,000 through an event called Roam the Tombs. And we're not going to do that again this year. So as a consequence, the trustee budget typically runs at a deficit of about $20,000 to $25,000 a year. And we draw those funds out of the endowment to kind of balance the budget. And we'll probably do something every other year, because it was a massive effort last year to do this fundraising event. I'd say, Dennis, wouldn't you?
And they're actually, the planning is about to begin for the next year's event.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But like I say, it was very successful. But we rely, heavily on the generosity of the citizens of the town through the annual fundraising campaign.
Okay.
But I mentioned one other thing. Maybe Anna, when Anna was here, she touched on it, but we were very fortunate, fitting in with the fundraising theme, to have had a donation from the children of Helen and Jean Chamberlain, the late Helen and Jean Chamberlain, who are great supporters of the library over the years. But their children collaborated to give us a $10,000 donation to jumpstart a project where we renovated or refreshed the young adult area. Looks much nicer now, and nice, attractive furnishings for sort of the middle school crowd. The project also, from that Roam the Tombs event, sort of a spontaneous sidebar of it, raised, I forget whether it was $4,000 or $5,000, but some poor people walked in and people were saying, raise your hand, and they were bidding on things that they didn't know they were bidding on, them, to our benefit anyway. And the trustees, through their budget, added several $1,000s. It was approximately a $20,000 project, but it shows the importance and the energy that can be created by a simple donation like that. I mean, I don't mean to say simple, it is a generous donation, but it sometimes moves things forward. We were planning to come with that request, by the way, in this budget or in the capital budget, one of the two. So we completely took that off the table by doing that. And it's very nice. If you hadn't seen, I don't know whether Anna brought you any pictures or not when she was here, but the Children's Library in Anna Byrne. But those kinds of things are what we try to make part of our culture as a library, or even the bookstore contributing, a significant amount of money.
Well, one thing I failed to mention, while the revenues that are generated by what we call the trustee budget, it's around $200,000 a year. About 90% of that budget is spent on library materials. So the books, the DVDs, the periodicals. Pretty close to $200,000. About $190,000 is spent on materials. The rest is just miscellaneous programs that the library runs. So the bulk of that budget goes right back into the materials.
Well, since I sit on your monthly meetings, I wanted people at home to hear what I had heard, because this just doesn't not happen. It happens because of the proactivity of the trustees and the generosity of so many of our citizens to make this so worthwhile. So I thought that, and since you mentioned Anna, Yeoman's job here last week. I've sent her video to Hollywood. You may lose her, but she was just superb, as she was before when we met her at the trustees meeting. So,
well, she's a wonderful employee.
She is. Irma?
Thank you. This is very, very comprehensive, as usual. No one could ever accuse you all of not using your equipment I've never had an antique lawnmower. But this, with 1988, if you add 25, and doesn't that make it an antique?
I think so.
It probably is.
Is it gas operated, or?
Oh, you pedal it.
But I see the guys using all of this old equipment, so I think it's really time we address it. I'm also happy to see that you've put money in to get books and have the towns step up to meeting their obligation to fund the books. I'm surprised, you're not asking for any new resources, human-type bodies?
No, not this year. We're anticipating at some point some changes in personnel through retirement, and we're actually looking at, with the Personnel Board, some reorganizations of the library staffing. It's not ready sort of for prime time yet to talk about them, and there are collective bargaining issues that relate to them. But, we're taking the opportunity to stop and not automatically fill a position until we've really thought it through, because it goes back to the idea that our environment has changed, our business environment, and we need to be a little bit more reflective about how the organization's going to look 5 years from now. And so this is a start. So under the cap of this budget, we think we will be able to accommodate some changes. So there'll be a little different look in terms of the organizational chart when all is said and done. And we may have to come back, but probably in 16 for any adjustments that we would need to make. So we're going to try to get through this year, making some changes and see how they play out.
I really appreciate the fact that you're looking forward to the library of tomorrow. When you had told me about this, I went up and looked at some stuff through Googling, and then actually Googled this.
Yeah.
The libraries of the future
Yeah.
and they still have books, thankfully. I happen to like books.
Me too.
There's still a little place maybe for a bookstore, I hope.
Oh, I hope so, and always.
Bigger place, I hope. But the whole vision of the library of tomorrow is just totally amazing.
Yeah,
And unless you start, we'll never get there. But this is great.
It's a complex kind of thing where staffing skills really are merging into other areas. They almost have to become not IT experts, but they need to know a little bit about IT. People coming out of professional schools for libraries now are at least conversant with it. Us dinosaurs have to learn everything on the job and come to terms with it. But I think it's become a much more complex institution to run because of that, and to staff and to deliver service. And service expectations, changed wildly in the past 10 years. So people expect everything now. I mean, it's a Google world, an Amazon world, and we have to compete in it.
I think you guys have done wonderfully. I really do.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Three of my daughters, I only have three daughters, but my daughters worked at the library when they were in high school, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable experience, and our family always enjoys going to the library. I share Irma's view on the bookseller. I love that. Yeah. And I recently saw a presentation on the Tuskegee Airmen, and I think that the global offerings that you provide there, and the genuine pleasantness of your staff, the people that work there are just really nice people. Yeah. So I think this is a great resource for the town.
Thank you.
Excellent resource.
Appreciate your kind words, and your daughters were very terrific employees.
They enjoyed working there. I hope that that's available for other Hingham kids. Or?
It is still, and Good. We have, the nice thing is we've turned out alumni who've gone on to become a part of the profession. For example, I don't know if you know Tracy Duff. She's come back to my world. I told her, that she always would make a good librarian when she was working for us as a college aide in the high school page. She's about to get her master's degree in library work.
Nice.
And I hope we get to see her around the campus, as they say. At some point.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Dennis, you might mention the level of volunteer work.
Well, it's phenomenal, and every year we have a volunteer luncheon that I sit down and add up. Actually, it's our volunteer coordinator, Joan Newell, who adds up all the volunteer hours. She keeps track of them for me, and I always tell people, inevitably, it's the equivalent or something between, when you add it up in a given week, between a full-time employee or sometimes two full-time employees, so sometimes it's between the 2 points. But that's amazing, and I translate that into if you took some sort of even lower level salary and said, this is what it's worth to the town, and this is how we get through life. You know, it is a union workplace, but everybody has accepted volunteers into the workplace because there's more than enough work and not enough, you know, paid employees to get everything done. So we've got a special appreciation for volunteers that get us through the day. And, you know, we actually are, when they call in and say they can't come, we are devastated. So, no, it's a very important part of the tradition of the Hingham Public Library, and it's something that we try to nurture.
Yeah, we should recognize Dennis for one other thing, which I didn't know until I started volunteering there. You're like the training ground for town hall.
Yeah, we have a few,
A few?
A few, yeah. And one of our, you know, our best was here before you tonight.
I was going to say, please tell us who that is.
Gene Montgomery.
Yep.
And I remember when Gene was working for me, this was a long time ago, and I just started practically, and within maybe a year or two or something, that Gene was always a very responsible person, managed our, you know, on weekends for us, our staffing, and then when she said she wanted to do this, I said, wow, you know, you're the perfect person to do this. And so she abandoned the library and went on to bigger and better things. But you benefited from it.
8 to 10 people that I know.
Yeah.
I think.
Kate Lathrop, who retired from here, was also another library alum. I'm trying to think who else.
Somebody over at the DPW now.
Yes, Liz Welch, and Donna Del Rosso.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for prompting me.
We're always very pleased when we see.
Looks like, sounds like.
Yeah.
When we see Hingham Library on the job application, we always knew that we're getting someone.
I'm trying to reverse it, you know, and steal. I could never get Steve or, you know, or Kate, but, you know, but I try to get them to move in at least on Fridays.
Thank you for that, Dennis.
Oh, thank you.
It's just,
Thank you.
the employees are fabulous.
Great. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
both.
very much.
Thank all three.
Good
Thank you.
holiday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
All right, that brings you to your final group of budgets for the evening, the police department. And I see our chief and deputy here. They'll also be taking up animal control and harbor master.
Oh, my gosh. Uh-oh, is there a quiz? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Oh, man, breakdowns. So I'll just give you a brief overview on the budget. The department request for, I'm sorry, page 9 is the summary,
And page 56 for the background.
56 for the detail. So the police department's request for fiscal 2015 was $5,082,447. With no additional requests, I will point out to you, though, that you just, to remind you that you just added 2 new officers mid-year, and that obviously avoided the chief's need to ask for the officers in the budget cycle. I've recommended a $50,000 reduction, which I highlighted in my initial opening comments of the budget a few weeks ago, or last week, rather, as, you know, an expected goal of management to try to utilize the 2 new officers to focus on some of the overtime. It's a challenge, and I will acknowledge that to you, and I know the chief will. You know, it's not going to be an easy thing for him to accomplish that goal, but I think it's something worth striving for. However, I did indicate that if we do get more money back in our budget cycle, this will be one of the areas I'd like to minimize that reduction. Overall, the budget recommendation that I'm giving to you is $5,032,447. It's a $180,000 increase and 3.72% over the prior year.
Okay. Chief Perino, nice to see you. Deputy Olson.
Thank you. What I've done is giving you a quick little handout here, and the first page gives you all the assignments and basically.
Can we put this on the, as Mike's talking through it, so the folks at home can see what Mike's referencing? That's the first page.
Bob, can you pick that up? Okay. Might be a little tight with the print. I'm not sure if public can.
I don't know if the public can see that.
Okay.
No. All right.
So what it is, it's a breakdown of our department and all the shifts that all the officers are working, and on here is also the 2 new officers that will be starting the police academy March 31st of 14. So that would bring us up to 52 officers, okay? Page 2, you'll see, is basically our stat sheet, and showing you the history of the calls for service, and it shows that in 2013, we had a 4% increase in calls for service. And then it also gives you a summary of the...
Can I interrupt? I mean, for the benefit of the folks at home, this used to be almost a manual count years ago, and now we have it this way, and I know there's some debate going on around what are calls. For example, 911 calls go to state, on the mobile phone, go to the state police, and then they come to you, so...
That's correct.
Yeah, so you would count that as 2 calls, I think, under the...
Well, we would count it as 1 call, because that's all we get.
Yeah, but we're paying for the other call.
Right, yes, right, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, we're paying for the other call through other means, obviously.
Well, yeah, anything that comes in on 911 is slightly different. There is a separate 911 call system, but it doesn't matter who it goes through. If a 911 calls in, we go and respond to it, so it only counts as, for us, as 1 call, not 2.
Okay, I was just, okay, I'm sorry, Mike.
That's all right. No. And then gives you a summary of the activities that our department gets involved in. And again, as you can see, things are increasing. The town is definitely getting busier, and in many cases, some of the calls are more severe. On the next page there, page 3, is this one gives us the breakdown of what we consider. I think the board in the past has wanted to know how the derby shops, Hingham Shipyard, Linden Ponds, and Greenbush affects our calls for service. And as you can see, the derby shops, definitely an increase there, over 100. The shipyard, another big increase, and huge. And then also Linden Ponds actually dropped. But I think the thing you need, we all realize, is Derby Shops is requesting to do some more additions up there. So plus the Derby Street corridor is going to be redone. We have a new car dealership that's already been passed to go up there. So with Bristol's, doing their park or whatever they're going to do up there, again, this is all going to increase our calls for service. And so, years ago when Glenn and I came on, and we had 1 south car, and I think Officer Haley was one of them. So, but, now because
he preferred north side. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So we've had to, put 2 cars up there now. We have a south resident, south business sector up there now because of the calls for service.
My understanding is that they're giving partial contribution.
The shipyard is.
The shipyard is.
And right now, Derby Shops has hired
In the
details
holiday
for the
season.
holiday season. Yes, so we have had cooperation from both Derby Shops and the shipyard for hiring details.
Good.
So.
Are the details to walk around details, or are they to manage the traffic?
They're foot patrol, they're kind of both. It's to help pedestrian crossings.
Okay.
And to do the foot patrol around there too. And with Derby Shops, they get involved with traffic up there, so they're busy, But I just want to point out to the board is, as you could see in 2013, these particular places in town are 10% of our calls for service. So it's very busy. And you take the shipyard, it isn't done yet. They're still building. So I thought it was the board should know just how busy it is in these particular areas.
Thank you.
The increase in Greenbush is basically, most of it is crossing gates, when they malfunction. The system is getting older, and so we're getting more of those calls where the gates, getting stuck, so.
Down?
Yeah, yes, they get stuck down. Or when they go back up, they don't reset, and the lights keep flashing even though the gates, and so cars don't want to take a chance and cross, so we have those issues too. But, the MBTA, they good response when that happens, but when that happens, we have to have a cruiser there waving people through. We contact the train and let them know that there's an issue at a gate, so.
Well, one of the areas we're getting some increases to is the trespassing on the train tracks. That's sort of, so, I think when the train tracks were all put on, there was a big push of education, and I think we have to start looking at going back and re-educating people to stay off the train tracks as well, because that seems to be picking up. No one's allowed to be walking along the tracks. It's not a shortcut. You can't be out near the tracks or on the tracks.
What's disturbing about the 2013 numbers is Saturday and Sundays,
They've been running.
they're not running.
Right.
So that means it's probably worse than the numbers would portray, yeah.
And then on page 4, nice thing with our new computer system, we could really get into and see what every hour of overtime goes for. So this is the projected overtime budget, which we have for this year, and this is an estimate where it goes, but that's the estimate for this year and what we requested for next year. And, and we understand with financial issues, and, we'll do our best, So, and with the hours there, the big increase has been, which I came to the board last year, was to request the money for training. And that's why the training number has gone up dramatically, which is what we're really pushing for, is, hate to say it, but over the number of years, we've lacked our training. And we've been really, in the last couple of years, really getting back to training the men and women and what they need to be trained in. So. And on page 5 there, I've done this for the board the last couple of years, is we've done a benchmarking on overtime with other communities, and these are the 20 communities that we compared to. And Hingham is number 8 for overtime budgeted out of the 20 towns. For the overtime that was expended, we're actually number 13. And then the average cost per man overtime, and what we did is we averaged out all the towns, and the average was, for all the other towns, was $12,190.12, and for Hingham, it's $8,184.
So town is good in that case.
Yeah, basically, the deputy and I talked to you, that, we want a reasonable budget, and we'll work with it, and that's what we've been doing. And then that page 6 there is just an article showing how the state mandates that every officer gets 40 hours of training per year, and of course, they don't fund it, so we have to fund it, because we don't want our officers not trained.
Very simple rule.
And then the last page 7, which I know last week when you had to vote in all the liquor license, this should not be no surprise to you. We have, as you can see, out of there's 26 towns, and Hingham's ranked number 5. We have 44 liquor licenses, maybe 45 now, since Sharon, yeah, I think it is.
46.
46 now. So,
That still keeps us at number 5. So
yeah, we're still number 5. So those are the, we just wanted the board to be aware of all.
Yeah, maybe for the benefit of the folks, my crime rate, since, it went up, it spiked up in the recession. Have we seen any?
Yeah, one of the things that we have actually...
Page 2.
Yeah, on page, on the page 2, is one of the things we've seen, like, is we've had a drop in our domestics.
Yeah.
which is often coincides with the economy. When, we have seen a drop in those, but we have, the larcenies are up, and, a lot of it is shoplifting, as we know. But, so, our OUIs, as you can see, we're already above last year's rate. And it's we still have another couple of weeks to go this year, so
So these are all on calendar year basis?
yes.
Your reporting requirements are calendar year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I think 1980 should ring a bell to Selectman Healy.
A very clear bell, in fact.
So,
Wow.
we're getting busier. The more building that goes on in town, there's more calls for service. And, I feel with the 52 personnel that we have right now, that's enough.
Okay. Since you've been referenced twice by the chief, I'll let you go first. You don't have to talk of anything from 1980 at all. That's not required.
Statute of limitations is run.
It's run dry.
I see Officer Norris, badge 1. Is that what I'm seeing here? or-
No, what he is, he's probably badge, 3 now?
Yeah, he's close. Jerry McGinnis
Yeah.
is still number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good enough.
Yeah, they brought me in as number 2, so.
Although I take exception to the midnight shift being called the C shift, but for purposes of illustration.
Oh,
I'll go
actually,
with
the
it.
midnight shift is the
The
A
A
shift.
shift, yeah.
The A
Oh,
shift,
okay, all right.
I was going
Thank
to
you.
ask you,
Thank you
which is the day?
very much.
A shift would be midnight
All right,
to 8 in the
excellent.
morning. B shift would be 8 PM to 4 PM, and the C shift is 4 PM to
Great.
midnight.
No problem at all. On the domestics, back in the day, if the department got a call to a house, there was no mandatory arrest in place, as opposed to now.
Right. That's right.
So, I mean, the domestic figure represents the arrests, I take it, not the calls.
No, that would recommend the calls. That would include restraining orders.
In 80 versus now?
Yeah. Oh, no. Back in 80 would be more of.
That was
would be-
straight arrests.
It would be arrests, but it would also be any call. But like you said, back then, we didn't arrest the way we do now.
And the drug offenses, are those possession, operating under the influence of drugs, distribution? Is that broken down in any way?
Those are all drug offenses, and those 30 you see there,
Yeah,
like, as you know, in '09 is when the marijuana became a civil infraction.
right.
So those 30, that's not marijuana.
Perks and crack, stuff
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, we've, I think there's been an increase because we've pushed for we've stepped up our investigation work, the detectives, in regrouping and reshifting the detectives around. They're working more with a lot of the other local, they work together as like a task force. And so we are really picking up, and trying to get more enforcement on the drug issues. So part of it is part of a push on us, but I think a lot of time now, when you end up arresting shoplifters and things like this, it might be a common arrest. You bring them in for shoplifting, but they have heroin or other
Yeah.
types of drugs on them, so that still counts as a drug offense.
I always find it very interesting when I look at the journal, the number of out-of-town people you pick up on car stops
Yeah.
going through.
So I would say probably 90% of our arrests are out-of-towners.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Chief, just looking at the calls here, especially up in the south side, with the combination of Derby Shops and Linden Woods, you've got over 1,000 calls for service, and I'm just wondering if the conversation needs to be had as to whether or not we should start thinking about something with respect to public safety, having a more enduring presence up in South Hingham. We've got a committee going, and we'll certainly invite you to speak to that issue in the future.
Okay. Like I said, we've had to revamp and put an extra sector car up in that area now.
You got two-person
We have,
car?
we have two sector cars.
Okay.
One South Res and then South Business.
24-hour?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We hope, we try to. Yeah, we have people on vacation and stuff, then we do.
I'll be honest with you, you mentioned two-man cars. It's almost becoming impossible now to run a two-man car.
With all the equipment?
With the equipment that's in there, and the computers and stuff that are in there.
Yeah.
With the airbags, you can't move them over, so you've got to keep them sort of in the middle, and the poor guy, it's almost unsafe now to have two people in a car because of the chances of getting hurt in an accident. And the cars are getting narrower and narrower. And like we bought the sedans this year, mostly the SUVs, and the officers are really, I think, liking the SUVs because they're bigger and wider. The sedans look really cool, but they're narrower, yeah.
Is it hard to get people in there that don't want to go in?
Yes.
That's the beauty of the SUV, is that, you know, the doors actually open 90 degrees instead of 45.
Yeah.
Because these are police packages now.
Yeah.
But we did have an incident where an individual needed to be arrested, and he was too large to put in the back seat of the sedan, so we had to call an SUV up. So that has happened.
On the training, is there a state mandate as to what the training is, or is that discretionary on your part as to what the training is?
Well, some of it is mandatory, firearms, that's mandatory. We in-service training down at Plymouth, they do 48, they actually do 32 hours down there. So what we've done is, with the times, we've now instituted active shooter training.
Good.
And so we're actually, we do qualifications in April, where we bring the trailer from the sheriff's department and park it on the side of the police station. And so we do that one qualification there. And then in September, we go to Moon Island. And then we also do night firing on another day over Moon Island, because 2/3 of the department works nights.
Sure.
So we need to qualify and get practice at shooting at night. And last year, we started the active shooter training. We actually did a training at the Hingham Middle School during the April vacation, and it turned out to be a very educational training. My 36 years on, it's the first time I've been in active shooter training like that, and one of the things that I noticed is when there was shooting going on in the school, we couldn't tell where it's coming from. It was echoing in every single hallway. So it was a real eye-opener for the whole department. We're going to do it again this year. We're going to make it a yearly training.
I take it you've got protocols for all the schools?
Yes.
Without going into any
Yeah,
details?
we'll add that, one of the things we did in the budget this year is put the safety officer back in the schools. And
Yeah,
Officer
that's a good thing.
Marquardt has been, he's assigned to all 4 elementary schools. And he's been very active in having them practice their lockdowns.
Is he in uniform?
Yes, he's in uniform. And all of our officers in uniform, by the way. We used to have the school resource officer in plain clothes, and in light of all the increase in school violence, he is now in uniform, full duty belt. So.
Is there a PO at the high school on a
Yes.
regular basis?
The school resource officer, he's there. Officer Ford is there, Officer Ramsey is at the middle school, and Officer Marquardt is assigned to the elementary schools. So.
Very good.
And I think one of the things in part of this active shooter training too is that we're also expanding it into involvement with the fire department and eventually, having some of the school officials probably witness it and see what goes on. Because I think it's important that everybody knows what everybody's doing. So we're working on expanding that as well, and the school's been great, really, really great with us.
Good. Good to hear that. I would think that perhaps even developing a protocol for the large shopping centers on either side of the town is worth considering doing as well, although I'm sure you've already got that under control. But thank you.
Irma?
Chief and Deputy, This article is most interesting on training, because I believe I mentioned I went to the regional MMA conference, and there was a big push where we had the police chief from Watertown, and then one of the deputies, I think that was his title, from the city of Boston,
Right.
that was in command when the marathon bombing happened. They stressed, and there were plenty of state officials there. And the whole purpose of them being there was to make sure that everybody understood how much training is needed and how the downside if you don't do it. So it's kind of interesting, the state is not going to fund it. The other thing, if Derby Street Shops expands, are you going to need more resources?
I guess what we have to do is see
How big the expansion is?
Yes, and how many more times have we called up there?
You spend a lot of time up there.
Yes, we do.
So does my daughter, unfortunately. I don't really want that expanding anymore.
Strike that from the tape, he didn't mean that, he really didn't.
Is that what this line is?
What I'm struck by are the complexity of the calls for as long as we've listened to a scanner, that the men and women under your command, Hingham is not the town it used to be.
No.
And when you listen to some of the stops that seem to be very simple MVA stops, and they turn into requesting another backup, and then you hear the rest of it, where the person is now a guest of the town.
Yes.
And also the domestics. I think that's the one thing that has really surprised me. It's not, you would think it would be in a section of town, but it's all across town.
It is.
It's everywhere.
It is.
It's rich neighborhoods and
That's
phenomenal.
basically one of the misnomers of domestics. It really doesn't follow the guidelines of social economics or anything like that.
It really
It's
doesn't.
out there, and it really doesn't matter.
Well, I think you guys do an amazing job, and the men and women that work for you also. But thank you. This would be nice if we could put this up so the citizens can see what you all do and the extent of the work. That it's not so much just riding around in a car for 8 hours. It's serious work.
They come to the Citizen Police Academy, they learn that, so.
Okay, good. Okay, the animal officer, any of those issues, just that's information only,
So we've, I think you know, you signed it, we put in for the grant again for the animal incinerator, and Mr. Healy, yes, it will hold a deer. It will take care of a deer.
Okay, chief.
A big deer or a little deer?
Oh, a big deer.
I got him up.
Okay. Just for the benefit of the public, there's, and this is work in progress, and that's on our dispatch center.
Yes.
Well, which is not directly under your control. You're one of 8, or I think there are 8 people who have a role to play in that, coupled with Ted dealing with 3 other towns. And that's an issue unto itself. But we have not yet had, we promised the town a review of that. So we're going to be doing that in January, and this is for the benefit of the vice chair of advisory who's in the audience, that we had promised a review to the town as to why is this the way it was and why it did not turn out the way we originally thought. And so I think rather than discuss that tonight, I've asked Ted to come back, and he's done a lot of work on this, and it requires further discussion with some of our other towns that are in us, and we'll be dealing with that. So I can tell you, the number is rising in too much the wrong direction, and I cannot support that. Okay. So that's for the benefit of the public. So, anything else?
Well, we have to go through Animal Control and Harbor Master's 2 other budgets, if there's no other questions on the police. The Harbor Master budget, the summary for both the Harbor Master and Animal Control budget will appear on page 10 in the detail.
The animal control is on 69 and the harbor master on 71.
You know, again, the chief and the animal control officer and the harbor master have done great work, at least from my perspective of handling the budget. They do great work also in their operations, but they've made my job very easy this year. The animal control officer's request is $54,902. It represents a 0.57% decrease over last year. And similarly, if we want to take them both at the same time, because I think they're fairly straightforward this year, the harbor master's budget is requesting $183,274, which represents a 2.4% increase over prior years. One thing I will mention on the animal control officer is, I should have asked Keith to point it out earlier, but Keith had asked the animal control officer and the accounting office to set up a gift account for animal control, as I understand it, and I wasn't aware of this until Keith brought it to my attention, is that our animal control officer has been taking money out of her own pocket to care for some of the sick animals and the abandoned animals in town that she gets across. And I felt, and we had people who want to donate money to help that cause, and so we've set up a gift account for that.
She takes them all home.
I know.
And all I
But
can
it's
think
more
of
than
is-
just taking it home. She takes them home, and she takes them to the vet if they
vets,
need it.
right.
Specifically in the
Takes
case
them
of
to the
Keith.
dog groomer.
It's dedication.
In this one case, it was a service animal. And the individual, unfortunately, couldn't be with his animal for a while and had to be away from his home for, I think it was about 6 weeks. And she took the dog into her own house and cared for the animal, and the animal got sick, and she paid to have the animal treated at the vet out of her own pocket. And so we're going to try to correct some of those issues. And thank Leslie so much for doing that kind of work, but I think that's a little bit above and beyond.
One of the animals that she saved was Sarge.
Oh, yes.
And he
yes.
recently, because, yeah, that was really sad, because that was an older dog. And because he stayed with Leslie, he was like brought back to life. He was like a teenager for a good part of his life. But yeah, she spends a lot of money.
Question.
Sure.
She won't tell you about it either.
Right.
That's the,
Police.
you know.
Paul has one more question on the police, if you...
Are you tracking the dispositions of the court proceedings with respect to the charges brought against people arrested?
Yes, oh, yes.
Okay,
Oh, yes.
so on these domestics, you know the outcomes as
Yes.
opposed to what's dismissed, what,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, oh, yes. Every time we get a disposition from the court, it gets entered into our computer. So
Okay,
we can
quaff.
look- Yeah, quaff, dismissed, whatever, you know, it's all in there.
Okay.
Fines,
Actually, the new computer system has a whole separate thing for prosecution.
right.
Okay,
So it's very good at keeping track of court
Good.
cases.
That's amazing.
good.
Good.
Thank you.
Harbor Master? I have a question.
Is there an account set up already for animal control? Is there something, can people send money to it now?
Sure, if people wanted to, they could send money, and they could send it to the animal control officer directly, the town, or the town treasurer directly, but it just label it, you know, gift account for the animal control officer.
Thank you, Carol, for that. Okay. Harbor Master.
One of the things I think the board should be aware of is we have restructured the harbor master department.
Thank you.
And whereas we have eliminated the deputy harbor master position, and we have put in we're going to civilian clerk to do the paperwork. I think what's going to happen, the public will notice next summer, you're going to see a lot more of assistant harbor masters out on the water, because that's what we feel they should be. And the paperwork should be to a civilian. We're actually going to be doing the interviews tomorrow morning for the civilian.
Good.
Yes.
Excellent.
So,
Out of your department, or is that person in the town hall?
the person will
Harbor
be-
master.
Yeah, the harbor master office.
Okay.
Okay, any
I'm
other?
good. No, thank you.
Great job, Mike.
All right, thank you, Michael.
Great job.
Thank you for your support, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Merry Christmas.
Selectmen just have a couple more votes, and then they're going to go to the executive session.
Yeah, we have a couple of votes, and I, so, let's see,
I would love to do the next
want
one.
to do Peter?
I would love to.
Please.
I'll make a motion to appoint Peter Blampede to the Plymouth County Study Committee.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Paul?
I'll make a motion that we vote to support HR 3370, Bill, and
Pause.
to pause bigger water, the flood insurance rate hikes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages liquor license to Jay Tolman for the Broadway and Bordeaux annual fundraiser/concert to be held at Congregation Shirei Shalom, 1112 Main Street on Saturday, January 11th, 2014, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Before we, just a couple of quick items. I have received this week phone calls from the press concerning a decision that was reached last week in the town of Oxford's case against Aquarium. And the questions that have been asked is, what does it mean to Hingham? And the first response to that is that the statutes are different. Oxford had a different statute than Hingham did. The second part of the analysis is that the judge, the positions were Aquarian wanted $13.8 million as the price for the Oxford segment of their of the company, and Oxford had requested $5.4 million, and the difference, the judge came in with an order of $8.1 as the decision. Again, he discounted some things differently than, and he handled it differently than the way we've handled our current case. And the third issue is people were concerned whether or not this is a precedent setting, and the answer is certainly not. However, like as with any court case, it could have influence in the thinking of the judge who handles the case, and this case, like all of the other cases going back in some instances over almost 100 years, will be taken into that and be advised. So that's just to give you folks at home, you may read about it, and that's kind of our position. Last thing before we adjourn, I would be remiss in not congratulating our town administrator. He celebrated his birthday this week. And it's a public secret as to what age he attained, but we'll give.
I turned 50 on December 9th. It was no secret. I just don't broadcast it.
Well, you just did.
Public a day over.
Make sure that gets in the minutes, Sharon.
For next year. So happy birthday from the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody
I
have
have 2 items for you.
Sure, please.
First item, and what I did is I included it in your package. You should see it. And I'll do this in the future as I have items I want to bring to your attention, but I wanted to bring to your attention publicly. I know you all have been made aware of this privately. The appeals court has dismissed Mr. Hastings' complaint in its entirety. I've attached the appellate court decision, and it's a rather clear decision for the town, and all counts were dismissed.
Okay, can I just add, so that we don't all run away, the paperwork has not been promulgated yet, and Mr. Hastings may have the opportunity to file an appeal if he files within 20 days, but that's his decision, not ours. But Ted's right, the case was dismissed.
And in this case, the appeal would be to the Supreme Judicial Court, which does not necessarily have to take the appeal up.
That's right.
And the other item, and we are in the process of also notifying all of the participants to the lawsuit. As you know, there was quite a few members of the community that were part of that litigation. So we'll let them know, and we'll share the decision with them. That case was handled by our insurance company and didn't impact our legal budget. The other item I wanted to bring to your attention is Abby Pearsall, our conservation agent, has notified me that the town of Hingham was awarded a grant from Coastal Zone Management of approximately $22,000 for Walton's Cove stormwater mitigation. And Abby specifically in her letter points out to me the work of our harbor master, Ken Corson, who brought this to the table and did quite a bit of work with her on securing this grant. So, as you know, the Walton's Cove area needs some work, and this is a precursor amount to a larger project over there.
Great, thank you.
Do we have a match? Do we have to come up with money?
Our match is going to be internal with our internal cost structure of our department heads and our staff working the project. So we will be able to document the town of Hingham will be paying a portion of the work.
Question. Irma, any?
A couple quickies. I want to thank the Hingham Mothers Club for the Festival of Trees. In fact, let me go back to the top. Want to remind everybody that tomorrow night is Christmas in the Square with Santa arriving on the Quint. And that was postponed from last Friday.
Be dressed warm.
Very warm. So come on down to the square, see Santa, and then shop our merchants. And you might want to take advantage of shopping for schools as part of this. And this will be the second year in a row they're tying the Hingham Discover Hingham gift cards. And 20% of the sales of gift cards will be donated to the school of the buyer's choosing. So come down and spend a little money, see Santa, and enjoy the festivities. And as part of that, I want to thank the Hingham Mothers Club for the Festival of Trees. We went last Friday night, even though it was a pretty yucky night. It wasn't downpour. The place was packed because they did open Friday night. And everybody seemed to be having a really good time, so thank them for that. And then I also want to thank, and if you're going to do this, I'll quit, the VFW for the essay contest.
Right. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I did that earlier, but it's good to
Okay.
remind it again.
And I want to single out two of the many, many people, Herm Messner and Ernie Sophus, our Veteran of the Year, for their efforts in pulling that all together. And there was a great showing. All three of us were there, and Mr. Healy's grandson stole the show.
Filled with cookies.
And Dave Sargent served as the MC. Excellent.
Yes.
Did an excellent
Yep.
job.
He's, and he does so much work, and he gives credit to everybody else. So that's it.
Good. Okay. You want to talk about your grandson?
Nah, I think I'll skip that part. I actually want to extend my appreciation to the manager of the municipally owned light company, Paul Henyu. In walking down in the square earlier this week, I noticed that a number of the lights were out, and I shot an email to him and Ted. And within 8 hours, he was on it. The lights are on. The bulbs are all fixed. I really appreciate that prompt response to that request. Well, thank you very much, Paul. Susan Achille, too, for her work with respect to doing that picture that was presented. I have it here.
Bob, you can get that?
I don't want that effort to slip through the cracks. I think that's great for morale at all levels. And as I walked in tonight, the decorations downstairs, I don't know who did that, but that's a really warm feeling as you come into Town Hall. I've been coming in for many years. And lastly, my colleague to my right announced that he's not going to run for re-election. And although I'm new to this board, I've sat on a lot of board meetings in my 20 years of service to the town. And I just want to thank you, Bruce, for your steadfast dedication and commitment to the town of Hingham.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
You're here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Somebody says there's a lilt to my step. But it's not too much of a lilt. I got 4 months to go. So, and I have My good wife Susan has a scorecard at home as to how many more meetings, but who's counting? Okay, I'd like to recommend to the board that we enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to labor negotiations, because discussion in open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town. The board will not return to open session this evening. Mr. Healy?
So moved.
Second.
Third. Mr. Rebuffo, aye. Okay, and a motion to adjourn this session of our meeting.
Bring your yellow folder.
And bring our
So
yellow,
moved.
okay. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.